what a lot of people don't realize is the Pride Parade, yes, it's about, celebrating our pride and being open and honest and happy. But it started in a big fight, a big, very controversial fight.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sex Positivity Unfiltered, where we talk about sex and we are not polite about it. My name is Lyndsey Murray.
And I'm Denise Stratton.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about Pride and how Pride Month started, what's the importance of it now, and how to be a good ally. So for anyone who doesn't know, June is Pride Month, and Pride Month is really important to us. I don't know. I feel like it's really important that we talk about it on this podcast because this is a sex positive podcast, and I feel like celebrating all sexualities is a part of being sex positive. Oh, so I'm glad that we're doing this episode.
Hey, yeah. And a lot of people, they know that Pride is like a month, and they know that, this is kind of when we celebrate LGBTQ people. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, including gays, don't know the actual origin story of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to really go into it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. So Denise, I'm going to kind of let you kick it off and just start telling the story of, how did this month come to be? Where did this begin for us?
Oh, man. Okay. For my baby gays and all the allies out there that do want to know, I just want to point out that what Pride is known for is, or the Pride parades, how they began is with commemorating the Stonewall Riots, right? And the Stonewall was a huge pivotal moment in our history. However, I do want to point out it's not the first riots that were going on around that time. Around the 1960s era, being gay was a criminal act. And unfortunately, bars, restaurants, businesses that would cater to the gay communities and let us be open and out, they had to work underground. Yeah. So one of our biggest allies, which a lot of people don't know, is the mafia.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that either.
After Prohibition, the speakeasies and things like that, those kind of stayed around, right? And the mafia operated most of those. And because these were the underground clubs that they would operate, a lot of the operations were open to the gay and lesbian community. So Stonewall Inn was an actual underground bar that the mafia owned or ran.
Oh, wow. Okay. It makes sense now that you're saying it, but I don't think I would have ever made that connection. Yeah.
But okay, so there was around that time, there was this Mayor Wagner. He was trying to clean the streets of LGBT people. Like that's one of his biggest stands that he was running on.
And this is all in New York City.
This is all in New York City.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Stonewall is located in New York.
Okay.
And so, that was his determination. He wanted to eliminate all the safe havens for LGBTQ because it was considered back then a perversion. I think this might have been around the time where it was also considered a mental illness, but I'm not sure.
Probably, okay, yeah. Because if you look at like old editions of the DSM or like the Diagnostic Statistic Manual, I'm pretty sure that it was like listed as some kind of diagnosis in there, which thank God we have done away with that now. Yes. But I mean, it was, viewed as a perversion, but also like something is mentally wrong with you.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So again, this was when my people were not looked on very highly. So police frequently raided gay spaces. Like it was a known thing. Mm-hmm. They would arrest anyone who obviously didn't look their gender. So think drag queens, think butch women, think transgender people. I mean, you could get arrested for just being
looking, yeah.
And then on top of that, businesses didn't want to cater to the gay community because these were criminal acts. So if police raids you, they're also going to shut you down. Mm-hmm. So people would lose their business, their livelihoods, just because they were letting people be open in themselves, right? Like I said, these riots happened frequently because police force raiding gay bars happened frequently. Mm-hmm. But days before the big riot, Stonewall Inn actually got raided already. I believe it was a Tuesday before, and police came through. They arrested many of the employees of the Stonewall Inn. And Stonewall is in Manhattan. It's a very tiny little gay bar. Like think of your dive bar where there's just like maybe one or two bartenders behind the bar. That's it. There's maybe like 10 tables. Like it's a tiny place. So we credit the Stonewall Riots for June 28th, but it actually started on June 27th where the police started kind of going in and raiding the place. The local police department had members undercover inside of the Stonewall Inn. And this was I guess this was a thing. Police officers used to go undercover as gay people, go into bars, commit gay acts, and then arrest the people that were engaging with them, right?
That's such a high level of hate.
Girl.
I mean, to go to that length to just to like be able to arrest someone. My theory is those extreme homophobes are all gay. That's honestly, like, swear to God, that's my theory. Like, if someone is like so hateful, I'm like, you're gay.
Yeah.
And you just hate it
Girl.
so much.
Girl. Yeah.
Wow, that is wild.
But yeah, that was normal. That was like a normal thing that, you know, you go on undercover in the, you know, the drug community, go undercover in the gay community. It was just, yeah, wild is a good word.
And this is the Stonewall riots. You said it started June 27th.
Yes.
And then like we recognized June 28th. This was in 1969.
Yes.
Is that the year? Okay.
Yeah, 1969. Yeah. But okay, so gay members were arrested because we had undercover cops in there on June 27th. And then on June 28th, it was at 1:30 a.m. where the police actually, like, the raid began. People are getting dragged out, arrested. And the police start roughing up a very butch lesbian woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the crowd sees this and they start throwing pennies at the officers, like just anything that they can, start throwing at the officers. And then this is where like rumors kind of come into the story. There's a rumor that someone threw a bottle at one of the officers, and that's where the crowd went crazy. And the person who's coined with throwing the first bottle tends to be, I believe, Marsha P. Johnson.
And then didn't Marsha P. Johnson like kind of deny her involvement or at least on that part?
I think she's quoted with saying, it could be also Sylvia Rivera, but one of them's quoted with saying, "I didn't throw the first bottle, I threw the second."
Oh,
right,
okay, okay. So they're like involved, but it's like the chain of events is up for, okay.
But yeah, so this riot goes on for days. Like, this is a huge, huge deal. It ended up escalating to bottles, then it escalated to bricks, and then we're on a full force of just our gay community and allies versus the police. Like,
was this like the first major time that they were fighting back against the police?
Not the first time, but the first time it became such, like, it was so long and it was so big. But no, we had riots before that that had kind of fueled the flame.
Okay, gotcha. And this was just like the bomb went off, essentially. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. So around 4 a.m., the police barricaded themselves into the Stonewall Inn. Like, that's how big the riot got. They made fire bombs and bottle matches or with bottle matches and lighter fluids. So pretty much homemade Molotovs, is that what you called? And they would throw them at the police. Eventually, the tactical patrol shows up. As the protesters are hearing them come, obviously everyone runs away. But this was, I guess, one of the first times where it was like an organized force, because the tactical team goes in, we scatter out. We end up doing, like, we go around the block and we come back and we trap them in there. Like, there was some actual military tactical strategies going on.
Okay.
It took a long time, but the riot settled down, and it became, like, it was such a big deal that word scattered everywhere, right? Nights after the Stonewall reopened, supporters of the riots and of our gay community, they gathered. There were chants, and because we were getting loud again, the police were called again. So the riots start back up. At this point, the police are responding with tear gas and, actual force, big force. And it ended up lasting all the way by till July 29th. So think June.
Oh, wow. Like a month, over a month.
Yeah, where it just keeps happening over and over, where the riots calm down. Everyone goes home, everyone's okay, but then we come back and we gather, and we're happy that we're a community that is going to stand against oppression. And of course, cops get called, and it just becomes this cycle. Yeah. So around July 29th, the intensity of the riots decreased. Police continued to be called, but the atmosphere was a lot calmer. And because of this, just this debacle, the media coverage and reaction was insane. So the newspaper in New York covered the protests with the headlines, "Forces of Faggotry," right? So we have...
Of course. Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised.
Headlines, right? But LGBTQ community members protest outside the newspaper's office. Some started burning down buildings. Police obviously pushed back, causing the riots to reignite and then fizzle out. So like I said, it became like a huge deal. So what a lot of people don't realize is the Pride Parade, yes, it's about, celebrating our pride and being open and honest and happy to be your real self. But it started in a big fight, a big, very controversial fight. The anniversary of it was just us coming together after that first year on June 28th. That's when we got the first Gay Pride Parade. And it ended up becoming, I believe, the biggest parade that New York had seen. It covered 15 blocks with thousands of supporters. Because of that and the media coverage, it spread worldwide. From there, we had LGBTQ rights movements in various countries that started popping up. So, I mean, that's kind of how it started. And just fun fact, guys, till this day, because of the way it began, the NYPD is still not allowed to come to the Pride events in New York City. So they're not allowed to attend. Yeah, they get their own security. But yeah.
I mean, good. I'm like, good. Based on history, it makes sense that they wouldn't be allowed to attend.
I mean, yeah.
And isn't there? I mean, this is a little off track of like the origin story, but like Pride Month and the parade, like when it all got started, unfortunately, there is some transphobia even in the gay community.
Oh,
and so
100%.
There were, from what I know, which I don't know everything, but there were a lot of trans individuals that didn't feel totally welcomed, like even at the parades, like at least a long time ago, right? Like I've heard stories of, trans individuals were a big part of the riots and how that all got started. And then we're kind of like, I don't want to say pushed aside, but not totally ingrained into the culture, I guess. Is how some of them felt. Maybe that's even a light way to say it, but
I mean, I would even see that's still a problem today.
Yeah.
Like the transphobia when it comes to like especially the strictly lesbian community or the strictly gay community. That's a thing. Same thing with biphobia. It's a problem, and I really dislike that.
Yeah, I don't like that either. But I know that's a very real experience.
Yeah. When we were doing the feminist movement, specifically the lesbian feminist movement, do you know what a TERF is?
It's like I do know what it is. So what does it stand for?
Trans exclusive rights feminist.
Yes.
So these are lesbians who don't believe in trans rights at all, right? And that's still a very popular idea, but it was very popular back then. Actually, when I was covering, a lot of this material that I'm getting is from a previous podcast I used to do, a queer podcast. But when I was covering Trans Awareness Month, I learned there was a famous ideology from the feminist movement that was like, I understand, or actually I think it was the gay rights movement, where it was like, I understand that you're part of our community, but right now you're too extreme, so we're going to leave you out of it so that way we can go forward in progressing our rights.
Which is very contradictory because like you're not in our community then, in my view. That's what you have. Yeah. I've heard of TERF before, and I know it's not a good thing. I could not think of what it stood for. But yeah, I do hear that sometimes that like women almost have this view of like trans women are trying to almost like take from women's rights. Like it's almost like you don't belong here and like you're not a real woman. Don't try to like get involved in our movement kind of thing. Which seems really ridiculous to me. Because trans women are not, I don't think that's the point of being a trans woman, is to like take women's rights and claim them as my, like that's not really the point.
Yeah, unfortunately what I hear a lot of people whenever they're rebutting, I hear them say things like, I don't want to allow a man to dress up as a woman and be able to get my rights.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's not what trans women are doing,
Thank you.
That's not the point. It's like, it goes back to like the whole bathroom debate. It's like, men would be like, oh, so if I wear a dress, I can just go in the women's bathroom. And I'm like, well, no, because then you'd be a creep.
Yeah.
Because you're not a trans person. You don't identify as a woman. You're just like trying to be a man going into the women's restroom. That's not the same thing. You can't like equate the two.
Yep.
See, I hear that argument sometimes and I'm like, that seems like a really silly argument to me. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's a there's a difference between a lot of people equate drag performers with transgender individuals, and they're not the
they're
same.
They're not the
thing.
same. No.
Yeah, they're there's straight people who do drag. Like, I mean, it's literally just dressing up. Or if you're a queen, it's literally just dressing up as an extreme version of what
like an exaggerated
version of femininity.
Yeah.
Right. And the opposite for drag kings. Right.
Yeah.
And that's all that is. That's literally all it is. It's it's a culture that it really enjoys playing dress up, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's their own culture, but it does not equate to transgender. Trust me, it drives me insane when people just try to lump in all of us, because we are queer. We are under the queer umbrella, but at the same time, we are all very.
It's a big umbrella.
It's a big umbrella.
Those all mean different things, and depending on the person too, it means something different to them. And so yeah, when I think about the origin story of this, I do think about the transphobia. Even in the queer community. It's really sad to see.
Yeah, because Marsha P. and Sylvia Rivera, after the riots, they were already big in our community. But after the riots, they spearheaded some huge movements. One of them being STAR, which is the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. So these were big activists trying to get transgender rights, pretty much on the radar of the society. And at the same time, the people who started the Stonewall Riots and what we consider the gay pride movement today and Gay Pride Month are transgender, which is
so we need to be thanking them a lot. So the transphobia is just kind of like, just seems really hypocritical, because like a lot of what we have now wouldn't be without them.
I mean, that's the big story, I would say. And then now what you guys see today is pretty much a pride parade. And unfortunately, what we get told what I guess the bad rap we get in the media is that it's not for kids and that there's a bunch of naked people, which can be true. But you see about the same amount of naked people. Actually, you see way more naked people on the beach than you do.
Well, I was just going to say, spring break and summer, it's like, women are wearing like thong bikinis, but that's okay. Totally, but not, not at a gay pride parade. So it's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. I just think like, going to that question, like, what's the importance of it now? Okay. Like having Pride Month now. And side note, Pride Month is June, but then June 28th is like, isn't it like Pride Day? Or it's like there's like a designated day as well.
The 28th is when New York City celebrates it's pretty much their pride, right? And it's because it's the anniversary of the Stonewall Riots. So
but yeah, like as far as like what's the importance of it now, I do get really annoyed when you hear like, oh, I don't want to shove down my throat. You hear that all the time, like rainbows and oh, I don't want to see all that. To me, the importance of why we still have Pride Month is because it's not just, unfortunately, it's not just a celebration of queer people and the LGBTQ community. Like there is a level of celebration, but we can't forget that there's still a lot of discrimination and homophobia and transphobia and biphobia. There's all these like phobias that are still very much present. And I think people feel like, and I feel like this is true with any minority group, like the example I'll use is like gay marriage. Like gay people can get married, so you'll hear like, well, you have the same rights as me, why do we need to keep like having this tradition going? And I'm like, technically it's legal, but that doesn't mean queer people have the same rights as everybody else. Do you get what I mean? Because there's a lot of like barriers that you still have to face just to get basic human respect.
Agreed.
So for me, when I think of like, why is it important that we still have Pride Month, is because it's a reminder of like, we're not equal to you still, So I don't know. That's what I think as far as like, what's the importance of it now?
Oh, no, I agree. To me, yes, it's a celebration, but at the same time, it brings visibility, right?
Totally. So, it's representation. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I get when people are like, I don't see why we have to shove it down. Like I kind of get where you're coming from, because it's probably the first time you're really seeing rainbows and you're really getting to see companies kind of queer code for a month, or you're getting to see these movies that are on Netflix or whatever, So I get that it seems like an influx of queer, but these are things that are available all the time that kind of just get suppressed.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is the month where we bring visibility to our community, because to be honest, I know a lot of straight people who don't even know what a pride parade looks like. Like they've never seen it. They just see what the media shows them, and
they've never been to one. Yeah.
And to me, the pride parades are awesome. When I was a little queer, I was craving some information on my queer community. I just didn't know where to get it, right? You don't know where to go, especially if you're young, and the only thing that we kind of know growing up is that there's gay bars, but even those are very few and frequent in between. We live in a really nice metroplex, where we have multiple gay bars in the DFW area. But as someone who travels a lot for work, I will seek out a gay bar in every city that I visit, just so I can give back to my community, right? And I do my best to have one beer at whatever gay bar, no matter how tired I am. Trying to find a gay bar in the various cities of America, especially here in my territory, is pretty much the Midwest.
Yeah.
Very, very rare.
Difficult.
Yeah. And even if it's queer owned, it might not be a queer bar because they don't want to advertise that in their city, right? So when you're growing up and you're trying to figure out what to do and how to be queer, how to find your community, or how to find people just even who look like you, it's really difficult to find that in person. You pretty much only have it in the media. So the Pride Parade is the first place for young queers to be able to go to, that they're welcome in, that they can see their community live, that they can see which companies support them, that they can see what, I guess, groups are out there, because you have the different floats that are, that's the first time I ever saw Dykes on Bikes, which is a big motorcycle community of lesbians.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. That was the first time that I saw LGBT outdoors, literally a community of people who are LGBT who go camping as groups. There's these things that you just don't know exist until you see it live, and the parades are the first place. So the visibility to me is number one, and that's why I would consider it as important, because the visibility not only brings like knowledge, but it also brings acceptance. As far as being a good ally and how to be a good ally, Lyndsey, I would consider you a pretty good ally. Have you been to any Pride events?
I have been to Pride events, yeah. It's been a little while since I've been to any.
Yeah.
I think since COVID happened, there was just such a long time where I didn't want to be in a crowd. And ever since then, it's been difficult to like get back out there. I shouldn't say difficult. Like the option is there, but I haven't maybe gone as often as I would in the past. But like prior to COVID, yeah, I've been to several Pride parades, Pride events. I've been to several gay bars. I've been to drag shows, and I enjoy doing that. To me, it's fun.
Yeah,
so it's like
fun.
Yeah, so it's not even like me trying to be a good ally necessarily, but it's more so I have so many queer friends, and queer family members, and so it's just kind of like ingrained in like this is what you do. You go out and have fun in this way. To me, being a good ally, I actually found this article from Harvard Business Review, of all places.
Oh, good job, Harvard.
Yeah, of how to be a good ally. And they broke it down really well, in my opinion. But they have like 3, I guess, like bullet points of how to be a good ally. And you really need to have all 3 of these to be like a top tier ally. And so the first one they have is to be accepting.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
That's a big one. Like you have to accept people are different than you, and like the people in your life, and like that's fine, right? But I think it takes more than that. Like you can be accepting, and that's great. But the next step is really to take action. And taking action can look so many different ways. Like to me, taking action can range from like going to Pride events, to parades, to supporting your queer friends, like that kind of thing. To me, taking action is also speaking out against discrimination. Like that's a big one for me. If I hear homophobia, I'm like, yeah, I'm for sure going to say something about that because that really pisses me off,
Good.
And because I don't think queer people can do that on their own. Like, I think you need straight allies that are going to have your back, right? So that's like a big one. So taking action involves that. And then, if there's any way that you can like vote for politicians who aren't homophobic, like that's a form of taking action, like one. Getting political when you can. And the last one they have on here of like how to be a good ally is having humility. And so that to me is another big one too. It's like, I'm an ally, I want to speak out, but you also want to listen to queer people about what their opinions are and what they feel is like the best way to handle things. So sometimes being a good ally is kind of taking a backseat and just listening, right? Because my opinion might be skewed. Like I might think something about the queer community that maybe is harmful, but I didn't know it. And so if a queer person comes to me and is like, actually, here's really how this works for us, or here's what we really think, or here's what we wish more people were doing, I just need to listen to that. It's not my role to like push back or get defensive about it. You just have to listen. I think that's true for any minority group. But like if there's a group that I'm not a part of, but I want to help, simply listening and following their direction is like another way, like another form of allyship, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of like having humility and kind of something we were talking about a minute ago, like why pride is so important now to me. And I didn't mention this, but another important fact is just like safety, like helping the queer community feel safe is like another reason why it's so important. And I think of this TikTok video I saw a while back. It was like this lesbian who was in a lesbian bar and got into an argument with this straight woman and her boyfriend. Do you remember that video?
Yes, of course. It was all over TikTok.
Yeah. And I was on the lesbian side because kind of what I heard like through that video, through the stitches on that video, I guess this straight guy, it was like a straight white guy, just that context is important, was kind of like defensive because he was like, am I really not welcome here? And really what I learned through all of that is that technically anyone can go into a gay bar.
Yeah.
But are you truly welcomed if you're a straight, cis, white guy that isn't there with like other queer people? I don't necessarily know if you are welcome because historically, straight white men have done a lot of harm to the queer community. Like, honestly, if you think about like historically, if I'm a gay person, do I really want a lot of straight white men in the bar with me if I'm trying to like stick to my community and feel safe when y'all have historically done harm to me? And so like to me, having humility and just listening, if I was this guy, I would think that I would respect that. Like you're not saying you hate me or like you think I'm going to do something, but it's just like the context, right? Oh, yeah. It's like we're here to feel safe with our community that we know is not going to do harm to us. Your group historically has. Yeah. Right? That's why we're saying you're not like totally welcome. But the feeling I got from like the argument that ensued at this bar was him and his girlfriend really weren't getting that. They were just offended that they weren't welcome. And it's kind of like, it's not about you though. Yeah. Like this bar isn't for you. Every other bar is for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Accurate.
Like 99% of bars are for you.
Oh man, no, let's talk about it.
Let's have the one thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that story I know kind of well because it triggered me in a way. Yeah. So New York was one of the biggest cities that I've ever wanted to go to. I went for my bachelor's party, right? So I made it a big thing. I took my boys, and that was, bucket list item for me. So I've been inside of Cubbyhole, and that was the bar that we're talking about.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't remember the name, but now that you say it, yeah, that's the one.
Yes, Cubbyhole. Cubbyhole, very, very tiny lesbian bar. If I said the Stonewall Inn was tiny, the Cubbyhole is literally a cubbyhole. Like there's maybe 6 seats at the bar, and maybe like 2 tables in the entire place. It is tiny. You can fit probably 60 to 90 people like at its full max if everyone's squished. Like it's a tiny place. Anyway, and there's always a line. So there's always lesbians who are lining up to try to get into it. It's a very busy bar. New York in general has a lot of gay bars that are also very, very busy. So anyway, so the story was that a group was with it was a straight group. There was a lesbian friend who was in their group. They were partying somewhere else, and then the lesbian invited her friends who were straight to come with her to Cubbyhole, right?
Yeah.
Then the straight guy got into an argument with one of the lesbians because apparently he was what the lesbian says is he was coming off a little cranky and aggressive because she was asking him to move because he was in the way of the restroom.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you guys, that place is tiny.
Yeah.
Very. I mean, to give him all fairness, the place is tiny enough to where he might not have known that he was in the way of the restroom. But, busy bar, just think, busy bar, crowded, you know, so she's going to ask him to move. And he got offended. He pretty much came to her after she got out of the restroom. So second, confronted her again and was like, hey, is it a problem that I'm here? And then, of course, the lesbian speaking out of her heart said yes. So this is where I have kind of a little controversial viewpoint of this story, because on one hand I see where the lesbian's coming from, because I agree with you.
Yeah,
we have about 20 bars in the entire United States, lesbian bars. I'm not talking about LGBT bars. I'm not talking about, just in general queer bars. I'm talking about lesbian bars, where the space where gay women are allowed to be around other gay women.
Yeah.
And it's just very rare. We are lucky here in DFW that we actually have one.
Yeah.
But it is very, very rare to find. And it's, like I said, it's a tiny bar, so it's a very little space.
Yeah.
So I get where the lesbian is coming from, where you being here is taking up one of the few spaces that the line of lesbians out here is waiting for.
And she viewed him as being aggressive.
Yes.
To me, that's scary. Even as a straight woman, it's like when a man is aggressive, it scares me.
And that was my second point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So around that TikTok debacle, one of the bouncers of Cubbyhole came out. And as someone who's been at various LGBT bars, I can tell you, straight men come into our bars and it's annoying. It is extremely annoying, especially if you don't come with a queer friend. If you have someone there to speak for you, fine. I'm hoping that they make you behave. But for the most part, when straight men come into our bars, they don't behave. They hit on the women. They look at it as a challenge. They're pests, pretty much. I'm sorry, straight guys. I love you. I really do. But they're pests.
Yeah.
Or they cause havoc. Or on the worst case, the safety check. There's been many instances, or at least from what the bouncer said, where they would slip things into our drinks. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then wait for us to leave. And then that's how a sexual assault would happen. So that was a known thing at Cubbyhole.
Yeah.
So of course we're going to do safety checks
this
on
woman
each other.
is like, I don't fucking want you here.
Exactly.
Knowing what could happen and what's happened before. Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, I'm going to speak for the lesbian who brought the straight people into the bar.
Yeah.
I want my allies to be able to come into a queer space.
Yeah.
I want that to be okay. I understand the reason of taking space. I get that, especially a tiny place like Cubbyhole. But, if it's just a normal queer bar, and I guess there's not a huge capacity issue, I do agree that we should be able to bring our queer friends in. They should be vetted.
That's what I was just going to say is, I agree with you. I'm thinking of... one of my best friends is a gay man, and I've been to gay bars with him in DC and even here when he's come to visit in Dallas. And so I'll go with him. But I know, as someone who isn't queer, for me to be a true ally, you need to be on your best behavior. You have to walk into these places knowing this place isn't for me. It's not that I can't go.
Yeah.
But it's not
that you're not welcome.
Yeah, but it's not for me.
Exactly.
And so if I'm never going to get aggressive with anyone, I wouldn't in any bar anyways, but especially at a queer bar, I'm just not going to get aggressive with someone. If someone asks me to move, I'm just going to move. If they want me to leave, I'm just going to leave. You have to kind of realize you're not entitled to anything. You're not entitled. Yeah, you're not entitled to anything. This guy seemed very entitled, and it's just I get that you're here with your lesbian friend, but are you really acting like an ally in this moment? It doesn't seem like it to me.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's something that also a lot of queer people don't really understand. And I didn't understand either. Again, I went to New York City for my bachelorette party, whatever you want to call it, for my party. The people who came with me ended up being the people that I've known for over 20 years. People that I started, that I came out to, actually. Oh my God, I might get teary-eyed because I love them so much. But they were my first roommates, right? So it was me, 3 straight men, my straight best friend, who's a woman, and 1 other lesbian. So there were 6 of us total. Only 2 of us were gay. But it's my bachelorette party. I want to go to the damn gay bars, right?
Yeah. But the people you're talking, I know exactly who you're talking about. The people you're talking about are true allies.
Yes.
Like, they are there with the best of intentions. Yep. They know what it means to be on their best behavior. These are not entitled people. Like, agreed. It's a lovely thing when that happens because, you want them to be able to go, and I love when that can happen.
Oh, yeah. And so we went to Stonewall Inn. It was a very crowded bar for that many of us, and unfortunately, I didn't only just bring 3 straight guys. I brought 3 straight, very introverted guys.
Yes.
But they were the best company that I could have had because they were down to go with me anywhere. No matter what, just if I wanted to go, they made the space to go. They made space for me in the crowded bar so I could have a good time. And then, so we went to the Stonewall. After that, we went to a place called Henrietta Hudson, and it is a lesbian bar. Luckily, actually, New York City has 3 of the lesbian bars out of the 20 in the United States. So it's a good place to go. But anyway, it was the most crowded, bar, club, whatever that I've ever been to in my life. Like, I'm talking about when you're walking and you have your drink in your hand, you're like covering it, and like you're trying to go through the crowd, and you're going shoulder to shoulder, and literally you couldn't walk in that bar without making contact in all 4 sides of you. Like, it was so crowded, and it was all women. So it didn't dawn on me at first as we're actually standing in the line, and I have my straight friends with me. And the bouncers who were letting us in made it a point to tell me, just so you're aware, we are inclusive for everybody here. And it didn't click until I went in and I saw that I had brought the only straight guys into this lesbian bar. So I felt a little weird, but my guys were amazing. They cleared out a space in the dance floor because they know I like to dance. None of these guys like to dance, by the way. Like, none of them. But they got on the dance floor with me, and they did the whole elbow thing, and they cleared a space so that way I could get down and jiggy for my bachelorette party. Like, literally, it was one of the best days of my life. And I got to have that because we were in spaces that allowed everybody, right?
Yeah.
The other lesbians were looking at me crazy, and I get it, and I'm sorry, but it was my bachelorette party. Yeah. So I have a little bit of a not controversial, but a little bit of a different viewpoint. I see both sides of it because I want to be able to be that lesbian friend who introduces my straight friends into these spaces and say, it's okay to be here. We're not going to bite. It's fine. But I also understand taking up space where we have very few spaces. The straight people have all the rest of the spaces of the United States. Right,
like 99%. I mean, really. Yeah. So, no, I get it. But that TikTok story, like, stuck out to me because it's like, speaking of being an ally, if you're going to go into these spaces, you need to have respect for the people who are in those spaces. It's not about you. Yeah. It's not about you. Just...
What, like, a misstep in allyship that I see a lot of is it's somewhat performative, and I think that's kind of what that guy did. Like, he came into the space to, like, oh yeah, I support my gay friend, but then he got aggressive with, like, a community just because he felt entitled to certain, I don't know, coddling treatment. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think performative is the word. Like, it's easy to say, like, oh yeah, I've been to queer bars, but it's like, but internally, who are you as a person?
Exactly.
Allyship is complicated. It's not just you slap a sticker on, like, you're good to go. I think you have to really embody it. Like, you have to really know, in these spaces, I am technically the part of the oppressor group. Yeah. Like, technically, like, maybe not me as a person. Like, I would never want to oppress anyone, but I'm part of that group, right? And so I don't think we're entitled to, like, getting offended by what someone says in those spaces. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if someone's like, I don't know if I'm quite comfortable with you being here, especially if you're being aggressive. I just think you have to respect that.
Yeah. Or again, safety check. What he didn't understand is because he didn't have any education is it was a known thing. And it is a known thing that people come in and they try to take advantage, especially for some reason, straight guys see lesbians as a challenge. Like, oh, he's just
which
a lesbian,
that in of itself is gross.
It's gross.
It's really gross.
I don't know why they do that.
I'll get to win if I turn you. And it's like, that's not how that works, though. Like, just respect. This is my sexuality. I'm not into you. It's never going to happen. I mean, it's just really weird. That's another part of being an ally is just educating yourself and educating yourself. Like, that could mean going to presentations or reading books that are written by queer people. Like, all that is good. But don't just, like, rely on a queer person to tell you everything. Yeah. Like, I think there's a step of you can learn things on your own. Yes. However that, comes to be.
No, and that's what I'm really glad that you did mention that part of being a good ally is listening and taking feedback. And because to me, that is also a misstep. And that's exactly what that guy did. He wasn't open to feedback. He wasn't open to, I'm really glad you mentioned that. Because I do agree that that you do need to educate yourself. You need to listen. You need to attend events. I want to stress the attendance of events because when we show up as a force, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying it, because a lot of people out there believe that pride parades are not for them, right? As straight people, I apologize. A lot of heterosexual people don't think that they belong at a pride parade because they are straight. I'm hoping to take away that misconception because the point of a pride parade is to celebrate and commemorate our community, and that includes allies, and we need allies there. And the reason we need allies there is because at a pride parade, unlike a lot of other parades, we have protesters, right? The protesters will make people not want to go into the parade.
Of course.
Yeah. It's something that we deal with. It's to the point where I'm pretty much used to it. It doesn't affect me at all anymore. But anytime I bring someone who doesn't go to a pride parade very often, it ruins their day. My wife is a good example. Last week we went to Arlington Pride. I'm very excited. It's one of my favorite prides to go to because it's really chill. It's pretty much more of a show. There's no parade. It's just like a festival of sorts. But they block out a big section of Arlington. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. Fortunately, it's a small group of people, but unfortunately, there are a group of protesters that will stand at the entrances of the Pride Parade, and they will heckle you going in.
Gosh.
No one likes to go through that.
No
one likes to. So literally, you have to, in order to go to a place that celebrates you being yourself, you have to get reminded why it's not okay to be yourself, which sucks. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, when I go into those places, I find it funny and I'll actually record you. But when it comes to the people I bring, it tears them down. Like I visibly saw my wife go from being excited. She's in her pride colors and our rainbow that you see with me. As you see on me right now, if you're watching the video, she's proud. She has all her jewelry and everything on. We get to that crossroads. A protester comes up to us, starts shouting scripture, and you can visibly see her uncomfortable. Like,
of course,
just come over her. And then for the first hour of that parade, it pretty much ruined the vibe. Because, all she could think about is being reminded of how other people see us, if that makes sense.
Well, and that's why these events are so important.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that you have to, always fight back against that. But if you keep having these events, you're letting them know, you're not going to ruin our events. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep showing up. It sucks that you have to fight against that. Yeah,
it does. So, but that's why if we show up in crowds, those people make less impact. And so it's very important if a queer person is going to Pride, I am asking my straight allies to honestly reach out to them and ask them if you can go with them. Because I don't ask my straight friends if they want to go to Pride with me. That's not something that I think I should do because I'm always hyper aware of trying to push my lifestyle on other people, right? But when someone offers, that's a huge thing in my book. So fun fact, guys, one of my first impressions of Lyndsey was actually at a Pride event. We were at Angel's birthday. It was a drag show.
Yeah.
And I think that was like maybe the third time we ever hung out. But yeah, major points that I got.
When I've been to so many drag brunches, and I remember, so my cousin Stuart, who's a gay man, I was in his wedding in New Jersey, but we had his bachelor party in New York. And it was like such an interesting weekend because New York blacked out that weekend. So yeah, we were like, literally the whole city's like in the dark. It actually ended up being a ton of fun because then you're like drunk in the dark and whatever. So he has a mix of like gay and straight friends. So it was like an eclectic group, right, of like people. And we went to this, it was a drag show, but it was like, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't like a drag brunch. It was like an actual show that we went to. And it was like drag, but it was also like trans performers.
Yes. Okay.
And it was really powerful. And I think my cousin, Stuart, he might have been the first person that informed me of like how much we should be thanking trans people for the movement that we have. And that kind of kickstarted like my own research of like, I don't think I even knew that. And that was like 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So it wasn't even like that long ago that, I started learning about stuff. And so anyways, I've, gone to events like that. And so the drag brunch was a ton of fun, but my husband, that was his first time going to a drag brunch. And I was like, we should be going to more of this stuff.
Like I said, guys, it's good. Please offer to go to Pride with your queer people, especially if you have family. My parents, my in-laws, my brothers, sisters, like they've never even considered offering to go to Pride with me. When I see the moms and the parents in there that say, free hugs from an accepting mom, it makes me cry. Like just my tears go. And my family is extremely supportive of my lifestyle, but just having that extra level of you being there
means a lot.
Yeah. Jesus. Okay. So other ways that you can also be an ally. I do agree with Lyndsey. Watch some gay media. Support, the gay owned businesses. There's a lot of gay businesses around you. I promise you. Go and make it a point to support them. Go to your local gay bars. There's very few of them. As much as I'm saying don't take up too many queer spaces, just be on your best behavior. Yeah. But attend, try to educate yourself. Attend a drag show. Drag has been huge in the media lately, which really surprised and confused me because we're okay with drag all the time, just I guess not at a gay bar. But there's drag everywhere in the media, in all the movies, in all the plays. Like whatever. But yeah, go attend to a drag show. I promise you there are family-friendly drag shows. There are non-family-friendly drag shows. But there are a lot of family-friendly drag shows. If you need other forms of media, especially I'm talking to my young queer people, there's a bunch of podcasts, there's a bunch of YouTube channels. Netflix has a whole LGBTQ section. You can kind of get that little bit of a taste of your culture without ever having to leave your house too. So there's really, go be an ally. It's needed. We need more people in our group. And it's a big acronym. You know what the whole acronym is? Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, it's LGBTQIA+.
So yeah, it covers a lot of people.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Just a reminder, we are open for listener support. And so if you'd like to support us financially for as little as $1 a month, it does help us continue to create the content that you all want, that you all deserve. And just, helps our podcast continue to keep going and to grow and to get even better over time. So we have a link in our profile or even a link on our YouTube channel. Just click that, support us if you'd like to, and definitely comment and let us know what you thought of this episode and what you might want to hear in the future. So again, we are Sex Positivity Unfiltered, and remember to stay curious and fuck politeness.